Hi, everyone. So I have received quite a few questions about the discussion facilitation assignment beyond what I addressed in my instructions and video that we have on Canvas. So I wanted to make just another video in which I kind of walk through the assignment and some of the different elements of it. And I hope this is helpful for helping to clarify some of any confusion there might be, especially in relation to some of the questions that have come up already. But of course, if this does not answer a question that you have, make sure you do contact me. So first, of course, you've already taken the first steps. So first, of course, you've already read the discussion facilitation instructions, and then also you've signed up for a discussion facilitation. And of course, along with that, you submitted your written explanation of why you chose the one that you did. So that's what you've done already. And so next, really the first step is what I do next, and that is now that everybody has signed up, I have now inserted due dates for the remaining pages in Module 0 that are related to the discussion facilitation assignment. And so those are the ones you can see on the screen here. So now everybody has those due dates in there for those assignments, and so they should be showing up on your Canvas calendar now. And of course, each group does have a different due date for those, which you can also see if you go to the sign up page, and the part I have highlighted there, discussion facilitation due dates, that has all of them listed right there, so you can see right there what all of those due dates are. But those due dates, as I said, should now be showing up in your Canvas calendar for those different assignments that previously did not have a due date on them because groups had not been formed yet. So what should you do next? So the first step, of course, is to go through the readings or the videos if you're doing the TED Talks, but go through those that your group has for that discussion facilitation. Read through it carefully, make notes, make sure that you have a good understanding of what your group is leading on, and of course, including how that class reading, that class material relates to the context of the class. And of course, since you'll be needing to prepare this a few weeks in advance of when the discussion takes place, you'll need to be looking ahead to what is going on in the class at the time that the discussion will be taking place. And of course, if your group does not have their discussion facilitation until later in the semester, especially if you're one of the last 2 or 3 groups, then you might not need to start doing this right away. You might be able to do this later, so that it'll be fresher in your mind when you and your group collaborate. So of course, then the next step, of course, in terms of the first assignment that you have to do beyond reading the material, is the preparing the discussion facilitation group discussion board. And so this is where you and your classmates will brainstorm ideas for the project. So brainstorm what you'll be doing for the presentation, how you'll approach the prompt, your impressions of the article that you read. So this is really your first step at collaborating with your classmates. And again, this should be showing up on your Canvas calendar. It's a group discussion board. So each group has a different board that only your group can access. So other groups will not be able to see what you're writing. And of course, anything you write on here, I will be able to see, so I can see the initial ideas that you are writing about in this discussion board. So this group discussion board is where your group members will post your thoughts, ideas, etc., even how you might divide the work initially. And of course, really the key is that your group needs to start collaborating by the time that this group discussion board is due. You're welcome to start earlier than that, of course. And of course, starting your collaboration on that discussion board also lets me see your initial ideas. I can see that everybody is participating. But I really, of course, encourage groups to then start collaborating outside of the discussion board. So you might do that by email, by texting, if you want to share phone numbers with each other, starting documents together, such as on Google Drive. So Google Slides and Google Docs are great to use for collaborating on this project. And of course, your group is also welcome to find a time to meet with each other by video, although of course that is not required, this being an online asynchronous course. And of course, it's also very difficult to arrange schedules. But groups that have done that in the past have found such video meetings to be helpful. So I just want to throw that out there as a possibility. You and your group members can discuss if that is something that would work well for your group. Of course, really the key, no matter which type of communication you're using, the key is to communicate with your group and to always respond to one another. So if there's any time in the project where you do not know what you should be doing to help your group, that means that you need to communicate with them, because you always need to have some idea of what you need to be working on. And of course, some groups might find it helpful to assign somebody as the group leader, that somebody can kind of lead the charge, help keep everybody on task. But of course, other groups can work well without an assigned leader. So I'm going to leave it up to each group to determine whether or not you want to have a group leader or not. And then, of course, what should your group be preparing for this project? And so this is something I address in the project, the discussion facilitation instructions, of course. And those are these two elements that you'll actually produce. One is the presentation that will be shared with your classmates. And second is the discussion prompt, discussion activity that you will ask your classmates and the rest of the class to complete during that week. And of course, you and your group will complete it as well. So first, the presentation. So the presentation can take the form of a slideshow. That's one approach. So you might be able to use Google Slides. That's really good for collaboration because all of you can get on Google Slides and contribute to it live without sending a file around. You could do it as a video. You can do a screencast of slides with a voiceover or some other form that might be considered a presentation. So your group can be creative with this, but you should, of course, check with me if you're uncertain about anything or have any problems or difficulties. But again, so this does not have to be a video, but it can be if you want it to be. So many groups take the approach of the slideshow, and then some of them use a voiceover or videos to go along with it. Again, so I'll let your groups decide on what approach works best for you. And then, of course, what should you address in the presentation? So the presentation is really to help the entire class engage with the reading and the concepts further. So the presentation might help the class better understand the reading. So that's one thing you could do. The presentation could also go beyond the reading, and it might connect to broader class concepts, especially in the context of the module in which that discussion is taking place. And also the presentation might be your group's application of the ideas and concepts from the reading. So you might be bringing in additional resources for the class, and of course also showing them how can the ideas from this reading that we all read be applied. So that could be one approach to the presentation. And so, really a lot is up to your group to decide, but I'm, of course, always happy to help out if you run into any difficulties, and of course, give me feedback if you're uncertain about anything. And of course, there's also not a length requirement for the presentation, although it should be long enough to really completely address everything that your group wants it to address. And of course, each group member will need to contribute to it, so you need enough content to it so that everybody can contribute to that. So sometimes that can take the form of groups assigning each member a certain part of the presentation or a certain topic or a certain number of slides. Or if the presentation takes a different form other than the slides, you just need to find a way to decide how you want to divide up the work so that everybody is contributing to that equally. So then, of course, the second thing you're producing is the discussion prompt, so that discussion activity. So in addition to that presentation, that discussion prompt will be prepared so that the entire class will be completing it. And of course, the entire group, your group, will be completing the activity as well. So any discussion activity prompts for our class that have come before your own activity, those can act as examples, even ones we've done already. So such prompts often will take the form of asking the class to answer certain questions, to engage with and or even apply the material. And of course, your group can be creative with the prompt as well. You can have fun with it. So you might consider what discussion activities you've done in the past that were most engaging, that you found to be most helpful. And of course, if your group's prompt asks the class for a written response, then of course you'll want to include some length requirement. And of course, I know not everybody likes length requirements, but it's also we also want to make sure that there's a sufficient content so that everybody's engaging with the prompt and the material. So thus, length requirements are often very helpful for that. And of course, to be a discussion, there will be, of course, required responses. So I usually go with 2 to 3 required responses so that there's actually some discussion going on. And so I can give guidance on that with each of your groups as necessary. And then, of course, as you're working on that, we also have that page on Canvas where you're updating me. So as you're collaborating, once you've already had your group discussion board to get going, several days after that, there'll be this page where you're giving me an individual update on how the project and the collaboration is going. And so you can see that on Canvas. And so this is something that I'm the only one who sees. None of your group members will see that update. And so this is, of course, where you will share what you've done individually to contribute to the project. And of course, what your group members have done and what questions you might have. And of course, if you have any difficulties or a group member is not responding or not contributing or something else, then you should, of course, always let me know. So I can't help a group with a problem if I don't know that there's a problem. And so that individual update is one approach to doing that. You can address that in that, or you can, of course, update me you can send me questions or anything by email as well. So what do you do when you're finished? So I do have a page set up on Canvas where a representative of your group can submit your group's materials to me. And of course, emailing them to me is also fine. But everyone in your group should be in agreement that the materials are ready, and also in agreement on who should be submitting it to me. So these will be due several days before the discussion takes place. And of course, after I receive your materials from your group, that is the presentation and prompt, I will take a look and let you know if there are any problems or if I have any questions for your group. And then I will take care of posting the prompt and the presentation on the relevant discussion page on Canvas. So once I do that, it will then be visible for the entire class and ready for everyone to complete. And so, of course, what do you do for the discussion itself? So when the discussion activity is taking place, remember, you're still the discussion facilitator. So first, each of you should complete the activity along with the rest of the class. So even though you, of course, are the ones who created the presentation and prompt, you are still doing the activity. And of course, second, since your group is facilitating the discussion, each of you should try to be more engaged with that discussion and more engaged with your classmates' posts. So I recommend responding to more of your classmates than usual. So, for example, it would be great if everybody in the class who gets a response from a representative of your group. So, for example, each of you can decide that you can respond to a certain number of students so that everybody has a response from one of your group members. So that could be one approach. And of course, third, once the discussion is completed, you should take some time to read through the posts and responses and reflect on how the activity went. Then, of course, the final thing that you'll need to do is the reflection. So a week after your group's discussion facilitation activity takes place, each of you will write an individual reflection to submit to me. And so this, as you can see, there's a page on Canvas dedicated to that. And of course, this reflection helps me see how the assignment went for you and for your group, and of course, understand some of the thinking and the ideas behind the work that your group did. And of course, I am the only one who sees your individual reflection. Your group members will not see it. You do not collaborate on this element with your group members. So the reflection is also very helpful for me to determine each person's grade on the discussion facilitation assignment. So each of you will need to address your individual contributions to the assignment in your reflection, as well as the contributions of each of your group members. So this, of course, helps me see how work was distributed, who was responsible for each element of the project. So, of course, although this is a group project, each of you might receive a different grade on it, depending on your own contributions to the assignment. So you want to make sure that you step up and be a good group member. And of course, I do have a rubric on Canvas on that page, on the reflection page, and so you can see how I'll be grading this. So you can see on that some of the elements are for the reflection itself, but other elements on the effectiveness of the discussion facilitation overall. And of course, a large chunk is your own individual contribution to that discussion facilitation assignment. So I do hope that this helps to clarify the discussion facilitation project for you. But if you do have any questions, don't hesitate to let me know.